in Mago Reddit. Today's story is...
My ex-wife left our family for a millionaire, but 3 years later, she discovered that money can't buy the only thing she really needed. At the beginning of our marriage, I believed we were building something lasting. I met my ex-wife at university. We were drawn together by our similar interests, and we chose to face the future together. I imagined that we shared the vision of creating a family and growing old together. I considered that our children, Carter and Charlotte, represented the most valuable part of our existence. Little by little, everything changed. Initially, it was insignificant details, more outings with work colleagues, private phone calls, and a growing distance that I couldn't understand. I attributed it to tiredness, or perhaps to the daily monotony that was getting to us. But then I knew the truth. It wasn't a simple, passing adventure. She was having an affair with a presumptuous businessman, someone who, in her words, could assure her a better future and understood her in a way that I never could. When she admitted it, she tried to present it as a clean restart, a way to finally achieve happiness, but all I perceived was devastation. Carter, 14 at the time and mature enough to hear our argument, stormed out of the house when he found out. Charlotte, barely 11, clung to me crying, wondering why Mommy didn't love us anymore. How could I answer that? After the separation, she left, leaving the little ones with me. Initially, I hoped she would try to reconcile. I thought she would fight for them, for us in some way. But no. She packed her bags and jumped straight into her new life with Mr. Pockets Full, as Carter bitterly dubbed him. It wasn't just her departure. It was the way she left. She said she wanted to start over, free from the burden of an ordinary existence. Her terms, not mine. She said the children would understand in time, and that I should get over my bitterness. Bitterness? I wasn't bitter. I was devastated. The little ones needed no convincing to take a stand. They rejected her attempts, ignored her messages, and even blocked her on social media. Carter, being the most expressive, declared that any mother capable of abandoning her family for a shiny new man did not deserve the title. Charlotte said little. She simply stood quietly by my side, her trust damaged in a way she did not know how to repair. I'm not falling apart. We adapted to our new reality. Just the three of us. It wasn't easy. Yes, we had financial resources, but emotions were sensitive, and I was balancing work and parenting alone, but we worked because we had no alternatives. Then came the announcement. Unexpectedly, my ex sent a message to Carter and Charlotte saying she had something important to share and hoped they would listen. Neither showed any interest, but out of curiosity, I quickly checked the email she had sent me. She was engaged to the man she had left us for, and the wedding was scheduled for spring. She expressed a desire for cordiality and for the children to participate in her big day. Carter laughed, a sour, piercing sound uncharacteristic of a young man his age. He said he wouldn't attend even if they offered him a new car. Charlotte didn't even look at the message. She said she had nothing to say to a woman who only remembered them when it suited her. Weeks later, she started to show up, acting as if she had never left. She put on a big show, bringing gifts, designer clothes, expensive gadgets, tickets to parks. She said she wanted to rebuild her relationship with the children now that her life was stable. Carter confronted her immediately, pointing out how curious it was that her idea of rebuilding only started after she found a man to finance it. The children showed no interest. They barely recognized her when she showed up. And every attempt she made to connect was met with glacial indifference. I won't lie. I wasn't bothered by the children's attitude. They were perceptive. She hoped they would fall for it as soon as she showed her credit card, but they saw through it all. She approached me after another failed attempt, frustrated and blaming me. She claimed that I had poisoned the children against her, filling their minds with falsehoods and turning them into little soldiers for my revenge. I told her the truth, plain and simple. I didn't need to say anything, which was true. Her actions spoke louder than any words I could have said. By the time his wedding came around, he had given up asking the children for support. Instead, he threw himself into the luxurious event, posting every detail online as if to show the world that he was living his best life. Carter and Charlotte hardly noticed. They were too busy with their own activities. But I could sense that their absence still weighed on them. Carter channeled his anger into sarcasm and avoidance, while Charlotte became quieter, more reserved. I tried to be enough for them, but I knew I couldn't completely fill the void she left. And then, just when everything seemed to be settling down, she tried to buy their affection again. Only this time she bet big. A family vacation in Europe. New phones. Shopping. She said it was all because she loved them and wanted to make up for lost time. But Carter, now 15 and sharper than ever, asked the one question she couldn't answer. Why did it take him so long? Why did he only care now that he had everything he wanted? And why did he think money could replace the nights he wasn't there when they needed him most? Charlotte, who had always been softer, simply said that she didn't trust her. She said she couldn't accept gifts from someone who was incapable of keeping their promises. Watching them stand their ground made me feel proud but also sad. They were so young, yet they carried so much pain. It wasn't fair. But it was their reality. All she could do was continue to support them, no matter how many times she tried to return to their lives. Update 1. Little did she know that her attempts were just beginning. And this time she would not take no for an answer. I knew they were processing their grief in their own way. Carter had started spending more time in his room, with headphones on, music playing so loud that I could feel the bass through the walls. Charlotte was also expressing her anger more openly, which surprised me. She would ask things like why Mom chose someone else over us. I had no answers, only the certainty that we would get through it together and that I loved them deeply. Carter ignored most of her messages directly, while Charlotte simply handed the phone to me with a dismissive expression. I tried not to interfere, allowing them to process their feelings naturally. I wasn't going to dictate how they should feel about someone who had disappointed them so deeply. His new marriage quickly took center stage in their lives. Charlotte asked me how her mother could move on so quickly. I told her the truth, that some people deal with their mistakes by rushing towards distractions instead of facing the consequences. Her attempts to involve the children in her new life became more aggressive. She sent photos of luxurious outings with her fiancé and her children, suggesting how much fun they would have if Carter and Charlotte joined them. The implicit message was clear. Money could alleviate the betrayal and buy her forgiveness. When she started calling more often, it wasn't because she wanted to repair the damage. It was because he needed the children to participate in his cover-up. Her new fiancé knew that she was married during her affair, but he was unaware of the real reasons behind our divorce, and she wanted the children to collaborate with the story of an amicable separation. I discovered this when Carter showed me a message from her, asking him to be courteous and not create discomfort during a planned dinner. Carter's anger was evident. She told me she wouldn't sit there pretending everything was fine just because she wanted to impress someone. Charlotte, on the other hand, was quieter. She said it made her sad that her mother cared more about her fiancé's opinion than their feelings. I contacted my ex in an attempt to mediate. I told her that pressuring the children to accept a false narrative would only drive them further away. She dismissed my concerns, accusing me of turning them against her. According to her, I had failed to encourage them to maintain a relationship with her, as if her betrayal could be concealed with enough pressure. The dinner was decisive. Against her wishes, she arranged for Carter and Charlotte to attend, promising them a good time and then ambushing them with a group photo to show off her perfect family. Carter left halfway through the meal, leaving the photo incomplete, and Charlotte collapsed during dinner. She was crying in the car when I picked them up. Afterwards, the children refused to see her. Carter wanted to block her number, and Charlotte told me she didn't want to visit her mother ever, not even during the holidays. I assured them that I would support whatever decision they made, but I knew that their choice was not something to be taken lightly. They were fed up with her games, and so was I. She did not take kindly to their rejection. Initially, she redoubled her efforts with gifts and promises. When that failed, she resorted to guilt, sending long messages about how much they missed them and how they were being punished unfairly. It was manipulative and exhausting. In her frustration, she began spreading stories about how I was turning the children against them. Friends and even some family members questioned why I didn't encourage reconciliation, as if his actions had never happened. I told them that the children were old enough to make their own decisions. I wasn't going to disregard their feelings to suit myself. I asked them to keep their distance from our affairs, as their partners were not the ones who had betrayed them. The final blow came when she tried to involve her fiancé in her attempts to win them back. She sent him to talk to Carter after school one day, claiming he could help improve their relationship. Carter came home angrier than ever, complaining about how he didn't need a stranger to tell him to forgive his own mother. It was clear that she still didn't understand. Forgiveness cannot be forced or bought. It is earned through genuine effort and responsibility, neither of which she had shown. She had hurt them deeply, and instead of taking responsibility, she had only made things worse by prioritizing her new life over her family, over the children she left behind. The children didn't need him to defend her decisions. They were perfectly capable of doing it themselves, but like their father, they would not allow anyone, not even their mother, to belittle their right to feel hurt and betrayed. They deserved better, and I would make sure they never doubted it. Update 2. I won't deny that I was angry with her again, but I kept my focus on the children. They needed stability, not a resentful father. One weekend, my ex turned up unannounced at our house, an expensive handbag slung over her arm and a forced smile on her face. She wanted to take the children out for the day. Carter categorically refused, saying he had homework to do. Charlotte looked at me, silently asking if she should go. I told her it was her decision, and she hesitated before shaking her head. The rejection hit my ex hard. I don't understand why. She should be used to it by now. She complained about how the children were being unreasonable and how I was encouraging this hostility. I kept my cool, but I didn't sugarcoat it either. I told her it would take more than turning up in a flashy car and making last-minute plans. She didn't take it well, accusing me of the same old things. I couldn't help but be sarcastic. I asked her if she really thought she could abandon our family for infidelity, marry her lover, and come back as if nothing had happened. She stormed off, shouting about how ungrateful the children were and how I was brainwashing them. I replied nonchalantly that they didn't really care enough to thank an unfaithful mother. She almost tripped when she heard that. The critical moment came during a Charlotte school meeting. My ex and I had been summoned, and it was the first time we had shared a space since her impromptu visit. She looked impeccable as always, but her smile faltered when neither Carter nor Charlotte recognized her. After the meeting, she intercepted me in the hallway. She said she couldn't believe I would allow the children to treat her like a stranger. She insisted that I had biased them against her and fed them a narrative in which she was the villain. I didn't hold back. I told her that the children didn't need my help to see the truth. They had lived it. They remembered the nights she spent with her lover, while I tried to explain to them why Mom wasn't home for dinner. She had prioritized her happiness over their stability. She responded sharply, stating that it was not a betrayal, just a choice for her happiness. I believe that Carter and Charlotte were too young to understand the complexities of adult relationships. Her tone suggested that these complexities should justify everything: their affair, the lies, and the disruption caused. I told him he was wrong if he thought they didn't understand. Children may not grasp every detail, but they see enough to know when someone is no longer committed to them. Carter remembered the time she missed his soccer games, even before the divorce, with lame excuses about work. Charlotte remembered when her mother forgot about her school play while enjoying a weekend with her new boyfriend. I made it clear that I didn't need to say anything to turn them against her. Her actions spoke for themselves. But my ex refused to understand. He called me cruel, accused me of keeping the children away to punish her. I laughed bitterly. If anything, I had gone to extraordinary lengths to give her opportunities to repair the relationship. I reminded her of the many times I encouraged the children to visit or listen to her, only for her to cancel plans or arrive late, initially prioritizing her new boyfriend over them. Her voice became lower, but sharper. She said she was willing to do whatever it took to fix things now. She wanted me to intervene, to reason with them and remind them that she was still their mother. I refused outright. I told her that relationships couldn't be bought, neither with expensive gifts nor with forced apologies. If I wanted her forgiveness, I needed to start by acknowledging my mistakes and showing constant effort instead of simply saying that I did it for her happiness. That made her angry. She accused me of being completely theirs now, of pretending to be perfect while using the children to punish her. She demanded to know what kind of father I was, allowing my children to harbor so much anger and bitterness. I replied that I was the kind of father who stuck around, the kind who showed up daily through the chaos and heartbreak she left behind. Finally, I fired back. I told her that the children were prioritizing their happiness over hers, and that she simply didn't understand the complexities of being a child. He paled at that. It was exhausting repeating the same arguments. Carter and Charlotte had every right to feel the way they did, and I wouldn't allow him to manipulate me with guilt into pretending otherwise. Also, I need to thank you all for your immense support. It's true what they say about strangers being more supportive than your own family. Update 3. The children had been quiet for a while. Carter, always the most expressive, had immersed himself in studies and sports, while Charlotte busied herself with her sketchbook, creating complex illustrations that she rarely shared. One night, while we were in the living room, me on the sofa with a coffee, Carter sprawled out on the rug, and Charlotte in an armchair, they finally broke the silence. It began with a casual question from Carter about his mother's current life. Did she live in a big house? Was her husband really as wealthy as they said? I replied calmly, explaining that yes, her new life was comfortable, but money did not guarantee happiness. I assured them that although I couldn't speak for her, my priority was that they feel safe and loved here. Carter frowned, asking why she left if she had everything she needed before. His tone was not angry, just confused, as if trying to solve a mathematical problem with no clear solution. Charlotte, silent until then, looked up from her notebook and said it was because she didn't love us enough. Her words shocked me more than I showed, but I quickly reassured her that her mother's decisions did not reflect her love for them. Charlotte seemed skeptical. Carter remained silent before asking an unexpected question. How did I feel when your mother cheated on me? The room seemed to shrink as the weight of his words filled the room. I took a deep breath, seeking a balance between honesty and delicacy, and told them that initially it hurt indescribably. When you love and trust someone completely, discovering that betrayal feels like a devastating blow. It wasn't just losing a partner, but discovering that the life you had built was not as solid as you thought. I explained that, with time, however, the pain faded, replaced by determination. I focused on providing for them and protecting them from adult problems. I told them that even though their mother hurt me, it didn't mean she couldn't change for the better, but it was valid to feel angry or confused. Charlotte asked if I still loved her. I paused before answering, searching for sincerity. I explained that love doesn't disappear instantly, but it does change. I didn't love her the same way anymore because love and trust are inseparable. With trust lost, love transformed into something different, perhaps respect for the years we shared, or simply a desire for her to find happiness far from us. Carter hesitated before asking what he anticipated. He wanted to know if it was wrong to feel so angry with his mother. His voice trembled as if fearing that my answer would confirm his worst fears about himself. I assured him that anger was normal, especially when someone loved and trusted disappoints. It did not make him a bad person to feel hurt or betrayed. The important thing, I explained, was how he handled those feelings. It was legitimate to be angry, but not to allow that anger to consume him or control his actions. Charlotte then spoke, her voice quieter than usual. She asked if it made them bad people to hate her. That question struck me because no child should face such a dilemma. I chose my words carefully. I told them that hate was a powerful word and should not be taken lightly. I explained that it was understandable not to feel affection for their mother now, but hating her was not something I wished for them. Hatred could become a burden that would progressively weigh them down. I explained that they should not necessarily forgive her immediately, but neither should they allow her actions to define their lives. Charlotte nodded thoughtfully, but Carter seemed skeptical. She asked if I still hated her mother. That surprised me. I looked at them and admitted that I had been very angry with her for a long time. I told them honestly that I would not claim to have completely forgiven her, but I had learned to let go of the anger because it did me no good. Then, as if coordinated, they both asked an unexpected question. They wanted to know if I would get married again. I blinked, feeling my mind momentarily freeze. Marriage hadn't been on my mind since the divorce, but they had obviously considered it. Carter pressed the point, asking if I would like to find someone else to share my life with. Before I could answer, Charlotte interrupted, asking if I would act as her mother if I got married again. That almost took my breath away. She was looking at me with expectant eyes, seeking reassurance. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees as I gathered my thoughts and told them honestly that I didn't know if I would ever marry again, but if I did, they could trust that my love and loyalty to them would never change. I assured Charlotte that nothing could ever take me away or make me put anyone else before them. Charlotte seemed to relax slightly, but Carter remained thoughtful. He asked how I could be so sure, and I replied that being their father was my most important role. No matter what, that would never change. I reminded them that actions speak louder than words, and hoped they had seen enough to trust in my unconditional support. Charlotte asked if I ever regretted marrying their mother, and that question tightened my chest, but I told her that without that marriage, I wouldn't have them, and they represented the best of my life. Finally, the questions tapered off, and the tension in the room began to ease. I could see their minds processing our conversation. I reminded them that it was normal to have complicated feelings about their mother, without needing to resolve everything immediately. I assured them that I was available for future conversations. Carter nodded slowly, taking in my words. Charlotte remained silent, but she came over to the sofa and rested her head on my shoulder. That small gesture seemed like a victory after this conversation. They needed to know that their feelings were valid, and that they were not alone in navigating this confusing and painful situation. I didn't have all the answers, but I had them, and that was enough. Update 4. It was Sunday morning when I noticed a vehicle pull up outside. I didn't need to see who was arriving to feel the heaviness settling in. My ex-wife Danielle was getting out, and to my dismay, her mother was following her. Like a coming storm, noisy, invasive, and inevitable. But why Sunday? I sighed deeply. Danielle hadn't even consulted beforehand as to whether it was appropriate to visit, let alone bring her mother. The children, Carter and Charlotte, were in the living room, busy with their Sunday activities. Charlotte was absorbed in her sketchbook, and Carter was mixing some music. I left before they played, hoping to avoid unnecessary drama. Danielle immediately demanded to see the children, claiming to have come to sort things out. Her mother, equally combative and expert at making everyone uncomfortable, examined the garden disparagingly, muttering something about its deterioration since Danielle's departure. How absurd. I kept up with everything, even when Danielle lived here. It took all my self-control not to explode then, but I refused to turn this into shouting. Reluctantly, I let them in, warning Danielle that this was not the time or the place for theatrics. Inside, Carter and Charlotte froze on seeing their mother and grandmother in the doorway. Charlotte gripped her pencil tightly while Carter's expression darkened like a storm cloud. They didn't greet them, nor did they move. Danielle ignored their cold reaction, saying she understood their annoyance, but they needed to grow up and behave civilly. Her mother, however, was not so diplomatic. She immediately lectured them, launching into speeches about respect, family values, and how today's young people don't understand parental sacrifices. Carter was the first to react. His voice calm but glacial. He asked his grandmother if she had taught Danielle to deceive her father. The question cut through the room like a knife, leaving Danielle and her mother momentarily speechless. It even surprised me. Carter continued in the same calm but cutting tone, questioning whether lying and abandoning the family were lessons passed down through the generations. He looked directly at his grandmother, forgetting his phone on the table. The weight of his words left Danielle and her mother struggling to respond. Danielle tried to defend herself, saying she had made mistakes but did not deserve such disrespect. Her mother intervened, calling Carter and Charlotte ungrateful brats, ignorant of what their mother had done for them. That was inappropriate. I immediately ordered her to be quiet. I warned her that she was talking to my children, and she could use that language with her daughter's new children. Carter stood up, raising her voice as she told them they were no longer welcome. She said that since the divorce, Danielle was no longer their mother, and their mother was not their grandmother. They were now simply strangers with no right to lecture them about respect when they didn't even practice it. Charlotte added that she didn't need a mother who believed that money replaced loyalty or love, and certainly not a grandmother who allowed such selfish behavior. Her voice broke slightly, but the indignation in her words was undeniable. I was surprised by Charlotte's reaction. Any reconciliation seemed unlikely anytime soon. Danielle, visibly shocked, tried to counterattack by blaming me. She claimed that I had poisoned their minds. Carter interrupted her, stating that her anger was not derived from my influence. It concerned her actions. He reminded her that she had made her own decisions, and now she had to face the consequences. My ex's mother, now clearly furious, called Carter disrespectful and accused Charlotte of dramatics. Charlotte's response was intense this time. She asked Danielle if she even knew what kind of mother they needed. She told them both that she and Carter were fed up with trying to explain themselves. They were happy with their father. They didn't need toxic people pretending to care. Danielle made one last attempt, begging them to let her fix things. Carter firmly rejected her, stating that they didn't want to be fixed. They wanted her to leave. The tension in the air was unbearable. Danielle's mother turned to me, accusing me of orchestrating the whole situation. This time I didn't hold back. I told them that if she and Danielle couldn't respect the boundaries established by my children, then they had no reason to stay. I ordered them to leave. Danielle protested, raising her voice as she argued injustice. Her mother backed her up, but I had finished listening, and I told them to leave before I requested an escort. Her mother muttered something inaudible, but I couldn't care less about hearing it. I firmly closed the door behind them and found Carter and Charlotte standing there. They were tense, but relieved. They both thanked me for standing up for them, and I assured them that I would always support them, no matter what the complications. We were united in this. I think this will be my last update. Things between us will not improve anytime soon, if ever. Update 5. Many were requesting an update. Honestly, their attempts to contact the children have slowed considerably, and their mother has not visited or communicated since her last appearance. The children are well, and so am I.